obviously things changed after our great Civil War, and we had our own problems during my presidency. And one of them was the advancement, the growth, the influence of political parties, which you warned against. And so we had to go out as presidents. We had to go out, modern presidents, go out and seek votes by the people. We had to go out.
You sought votes, sir?
Absolutely. And I know this was something that would be a shock to you, but the strength of the political system in our states was such that if you wanted to be president, and every man who ran wanted to be president.
Excuse me,
I know I did.
You ran? We
Yes,
stood
we ran.
for election.
We ran. In 1901, I gave 23,000 speeches.
Oh.
Oh my goodness. I think I'd rather be assassinated again than to even consider such a thing.
Well, I have been fortunate because talking has been one of my strong points.
Obviously. I do have a story here, General Washington. You will appreciate this one. I was a young man in Albemarle County, and my father had been Justice of the Peace. And I was asked by several to stand for what was then the House of Burgesses. And before a revolution, we were an English colony. And I recall I did not have the wherewithal to provide all of the treats for the people, all the freeholders who would come. And one of the older men bragged that he would certainly accomplish his goal of going to Williamsburg because he had 7 Wethers and 30 casks of English strong beer to dispense. As it turned out, I won and he did not.
Well, and that, I hate to, I have to apologize. My math is not very strong. It was 2,300 speeches in a 2-month period.
That's still.
That's still.
Yes, I
take back what I
used to
said
say,
then, too.
Theodore, what have you done with the money I give you? She, as president, she would give me money each day to spend, and she would normally give me $20, which is quite a bit, of course. And at the end of the day, I still could figure out what I did with that $20. So,
well, the 23,000 seemed like a disproportionate number because 2 of our largest cities, Philadelphia and New York, had a population about that when I was in the Revolutionary War. I have another question. Since we, President Jefferson and I, are from that founding generation in which we put together a democratic republic, and I do realize that you were at France during the Constitutional Convention, but you still had your influence, especially with the Declaration of Independence. How's it going? How's a democratic republic going? You, through a period of time of, you're saying, a civil war, and then you afterwards. And so how did we fare through the war? How did we fare during your administration?
Well, our population was so severely divided and so filled with acrimony and downright hatred that to mend the wounds that had been inflicted seemed nigh unto impossible to me near the end. And I met an untimely end myself, so I didn't get to see how it happened.
I see.
But the war had engendered not only antipathy because of the war, but there were individuals who had other grievances against neighbors and political opponents on account of banking or federalism or countless other issues, who then used the war to vindicate themselves against their former enemies, and it became almost chaotic in some places, such as Missouri, where it was 4 of the slave-owning states stayed in the Union, but were terribly split amongst the population, and Missouri was one of them. And so you had not only people in the South, but sometimes people who simply owned the farm that adjacent to yours, who was laying in wait for you over other issues that were not even related to slavery or the war, but were using the war now to their own personal advantage. So, and they came sometimes to Washington and fought in front of me. After a while, I just had no time to solve their arguments and just let them fight it out on their own. So it was very distressing at times. But that is not the end of it, obviously.
No.
So
Well,
hopefully you have better news for us.
Well, both yes and no. By the time I took office in September of 1901, the United States was about 100 million people.
100?
100 million people. I know that was shock to you.
It was 4 million when we were alive.
About 30 when I was.
Well, one of the grand things about our country is that the rest of the world could see who we were and where we hoped to go. And they wanted to be a part of that. They were tired of the old arguments, the old classes that were set up. They were tired of not being able to dream about a better life and then to reach out and do that. They wanted to be in a place where a man could pull himself up by his own bootstraps and he would be rewarded for his own efforts.
Right.
And we were the country that could offer that. There were other countries that are on the way. I mean, Canada became a nice home for immigrants, immigration. And of course, there was Australia out in the Pacific. And by that time, not only had we grown that number, we had to, because this country stretched from the East Coast to the Pacific Coast.